1. The Titanic and the wreck of the Titan. In 1898, 14 years before the Titanic sank, author Morgan Robertson wrote a novella titled The Wreck of the Titan about an unsinkable ship named Titan that hits an iceberg and sinks in the North Atlantic, eerily similar to the Titanic disaster. 2. The Curse of Tamerlane. In 1941, Soviet archaeologists opened the tomb of Tamerlane, a Mongol conqueror. An inscription warned that whoever disturbed the tomb would unleash an invader more terrible than Tamerlane. 2 days later, Hitler invaded the Soviet Union. 3. The Simpsons prediction. The Simpsons has made numerous predictions that came true, including Donald Trump becoming president, the invention of smartwatches, and even the discovery of the Higgs boson particle. 4. The twin deaths. In 2002, twin brothers in Finland died on the same day, just hours apart, in separate bicycle accidents on the same road, within a mile of each other. 5. Edgar Allan Poe's prophetic novel. Edgar Allan Poe's novel The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym, 1838, tells the story of shipwreck survivors who resort to cannibalism. 46 years later, a real shipwreck occurred, and the survivors drew lots to decide who would be eaten, just as in Poe's story. 6. The Hoover Dam tragedy. The first man to die during the construction of the Hoover Dam was J.G. Tierney on December 20, 1922. The last man to die during its construction was his son, Patrick Tierney, on December 20, 1935, exactly 13 years later. 7. The King Umberto I coincidence. On July 28, 1900, King Umberto I of Italy met a man who looked exactly like him and shared his name. Both were born on the same day, in the same town, married women named Margarita, and owned restaurants. The day after meeting, both were shot dead in separate incidents. 8. Mark Twain and Halley's Comet. Mark Twain was born in 1835, the year Halley's Comet passed by Earth. He predicted he would die with its return in 1910, and he did, passing away one day after the comet's closest approach to Earth. 9. The Lincoln-Kennedy connection. Presidents Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy have numerous eerie similarities. Both were elected 100 years apart, 1860 and 1960. Both were succeeded by men named Johnson, and both were assassinated on a Friday in the presence of their wives. 10. The Bullet of Fate. In 1883, Henry Ziegland broke up with his girlfriend, who then committed suicide. Her brother sought revenge and shot Ziegland, but the bullet only grazed him and lodged in a tree. Years later, Ziegland tried to cut down the tree using dynamite. The explosion propelled the bullet into his head, killing him. 11. The Double War. In 1944, a German soldier named Heinrich Richter fought in the same place in Italy where his father, also named Heinrich Richter, had fought in World War I in 1917. Both men wrote about the similarities in their diaries. 12. The Great Emu War. In 1932, Australia fought a war against emus, large flightless birds damaging crops. Despite military efforts, the emus won, leading to one of history's strangest and most futile military campaigns. 13. The Stranger's Call. In 1975, a man in Detroit was killed by a taxi while riding his motorcycle. 1 year later, his brother died in the same way, on the same street, by the same taxi, driven by the same driver, carrying the same passenger. 14. Hugh Williams, a survivor's name. On 3 separate occasions over 150 years, ships sank with only one survivor each time, a man named Hugh Williams. These incidents occurred in 1664, 1785, and 1820. 15. The Civil War Generals Connection. Generals Ulysses S. Grant and Robert E. Lee, who faced each other in the American Civil War, both lived in the same house at different times before the war. The house belonged to Lee's father-in-law, who rented it to Grant. 16. The Kennedy coincidence. In 1917, a young man named Joseph Figlock was walking down the street when a baby fell from a high window, landing on him, but both were unharmed. A year later, in the same spot, the same baby fell on Figlock again, and both survived once more. 17. Anthony Hopkins and the Girl from Petrovka. Actor Anthony Hopkins once searched for a book titled The Girl from Petrovka to prepare for a film role. He couldn't find it, but later stumbled upon a copy on a park bench. It turned out to be the author's own annotated copy, which had been lost. 18. The found wallet. In 1965, a man named James Mackey lost his wallet in the snow in New York. 21 years later, a construction worker found it in a sealed compartment of a building, still intact. 19. The two Mr. Brysons. In 1953, TV actor Michael Fenton received a letter addressed to Michael Fenton from a fan who believed he was a different Michael Fenton, her childhood friend. Coincidentally, her childhood friend Michael Fenton lived next door to the actor at the time. 20. The Bermuda Triangle twins. In 1975, twin brothers were struck and killed by the same taxi, driven by the same driver, on the same street, 1 year apart in Bermuda. 21. The Bridge Collapse Prophecy. In 1867, author Robert Dale Owen wrote about a woman who foresaw a bridge collapse. A year later, the Ashtabula River Railroad disaster occurred, eerily matching the details Owen described. 22. The death of the Archduke. Archduke Franz Ferdinand's assassination in 1914 sparked World War I. Before the assassination, he narrowly escaped death in a previous attack. The car he was assassinated in had the license plate A3118, interpreted by some as Armistice, November 11, 1918. 23. The Antietam Coincidence. During the American Civil War, the Battle of Antietam saw two bullets collide mid-air, fusing together. This rare event was discovered by a soldier after the battle. 24. The Green Children of Woolpit. In the 12th century, two children with green skin appeared in Woolpit, England. They spoke an unknown language and ate only raw beans. Over time, they adapted to local food and lost their green color. Theories about their origins range from a parallel universe to a hidden civilization. 25. The lightning striker. Roy Sullivan, a U.S. park ranger, was struck by lightning 7 times between 1942 and 1977, surviving each strike. His luck was so uncanny that he became known as the human lightning rod. 26. The Egypt Pyramid Workers. The workers who built the Great Pyramid of Giza were paid in beer and bread, not slaves as commonly believed. The coincidence here is that the workers' food rations aligned with ancient Egyptian religious beliefs that linked bread and beer to the afterlife. 27. The Mothman Prophecies. In 1966 to 1967, residents of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, reported sightings of a winged creature, dubbed the Mothman. These sightings coincided with strange events, including the collapse of the Silver Bridge in 1967, which killed 46 people. 28. The death of Rasputin. Grigory Rasputin, a Russian mystic, was poisoned, shot, and beaten by conspirators in 1916. Despite the extreme measures, he survived until he was finally drowned. His death fulfilled a prophecy he made that the Romanov dynasty would fall if he died. 29. The day the Earth stood still. On September 11, 2001, American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. The event coincidentally matched a scene in the 1998 film The Siege, where the World Trade Center was targeted by terrorists. 30. The Book and the Boy. In 1946, a 17-year-old boy named Donald A. Larson checked out a library book titled The Long Winter from a library in Massachusetts. He lost it, and 47 years later, his daughter returned the book after finding it in his belongings, coincidentally at the same library he had checked it out from. These coincidences are not only intriguing but also serve as reminders of the strange and mysterious ways in which history, fate, and human lives intertwine.